Welcome back, everybody. I'm Rustin.
I'm Mike Basil.
I'm Tammy Gomez.
And we are journeying with you through 10 practices that will help build our faith when life is a bit more hard. Day one of Michelle's text is called Lamenting the Unexpected Life. And that's what we're going to focus on today. And one of the things she lays out very early is lament is often the path to authentic worship. What do you guys think about that?
That was a tough one for me. I mean, again, when I think about worship, I think about this jubilant expression of, who God is, worship, as, we've heard it said. And so pausing to mourn, to feel, and to, embrace those practices is difficult for me.
I really appreciated that she said that before Jesus walked out of the tomb, he grieved in the garden. And so before we can celebrate, we need to grieve and be real with what we're experiencing, dealing with the ashes of our past.
Yeah, I like the quote here from the book. It says, "Your losses are worthy of lament. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. It's okay to give voice to your anger and to your anguish." I mean, that really just... Oftentimes, again, we have all a facade that we're trying to create. We have what's the word we use on social media now? We have a brand, right? And so lament is not good for the brand, right? And so lament is this really opposite practice, but it's a healthy one, right? Where we can firmly put our, feet on this earth, feel what we need to feel, and then be able to engage the world in a different way.
Yeah, lament is not about having a pity party. It's about being able to name authentically where we're suffering, where our holes are, and trust that God's, who's bigger than us and bigger than our stuff, is going to help us get through it.
That's really good.
And I think, right, when you think about that in relationship to like all Brene Brown's work, right, and that the path to becoming who we are is about vulnerability, and creating space for vulnerability. And I do really think that there's a piece of how do we love God until we learn how to love ourselves, that we will not love God as fully as we have potential to until we learn how to love ourselves. And part of loving ourselves is being real with who we are and what we've lost and what we're losing and expectations that have broken, and acknowledging that too is a piece of worship. I don't know that I would go on like with her and say lament is often the path to authentic worship. I don't know that I would say that, but I do think being real with the pieces that are broken within us draw us to this God who restores, to reconciles, and takes us away from this idea that we all have as Americans, that we can fix whatever's broken.
And we can't be restored if we don't admit that there's something to restore.
Yeah.
That's the first step.
Yeah. And a huge piece of our worship, a huge piece of what it means to connect to God, right? This is that piece of confession in some ways. Like, I think often we think about confession as just a thing about sin, but sometimes confession is just honesty.
Yes.
Like just being honest about who we are and who God is and where God's power resides and where our power resides, and having an honest dialogue about that is central to what does it mean to connect to the divine in our lives.
Yeah, lament can be this really scary idea, right? But then when we really break it down, it's this idea of just really kind of being honest with ourselves, being honest with our pains, our hurts, the things that we felt disappointment in, the things that haven't been the way they should be, right? And realizing that the world we live in is not perfect, it's broken, and to be okay with the pain through that, right?
And that's why we need the inbreaking of God. That when we lament, we can actually make ourselves open.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that Michelle does at the end of each chapter is she will give us a practice. And it's just a 5-minute practice that she has at literally the end of each day. And we're going to invite you to join us in that. One of the quotes from her practice for today is that there are actually 5 purposes of lament. Number 1, lament is a form of praise. Number 2, it's proof of the relationship. Number 3, it's a pathway to intimacy with God. Number 4, it is a prayer for God to act. And number 5, it is a participation in the suffering of others. So she invites us, and we invite you to consider these 5 purposes. What do you need most right now? How might adding the practice of lament to your spiritual journey build your faith? We would love for you to take out a journal each day and just journal some ideas of what God might be saying to you about lament, and what laments do you need to be sharing. So we invite you to be thinking about that as we close out this first week of Lent.